And so being alive is a great gift, this precious human birth, and it comes with its challenges, doesn't it? It certainly does. So we're talking about this idea of honesty because we need to be concerned about the impact our words have. Have you noticed the impact that words have? It doesn't take too much looking at the news to see how impactful words can be. And so, if we all live what my mama taught me, and I bet your mama taught you the same darn thing, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. If you can't say something kind, don't say anything at all. Well, actually what I know about that is that most people don't practice that. It's hard to practice that. We get all caught up in, the human condition and what's going on. But I like what Pema Chodron says in that opening reading. She says, gentle honesty, speaking with kindness, speaking with compassion, being compassionately honest is the foundation of a sane society. We can't go around deceiving each other. We can't go around telling lies, making up stories. Gentle honesty is the foundation of a sane society. Because when we're honest with each other and with ourselves, we can trust each other. Have you noticed how that works? We trust each other. We have confidence in one another. We have confidence in life. We can trust the process. So it doesn't take a lot of looking around to see the proliferation of lies just in the last week. We've got Olympic lies, we've got political lies, we've got all kinds of lies going on out there. And what I know about those kinds of lies those kinds of lies are based in our ego, right? They're based in greed, they're based in fear, they're based in competition, they're based in jealousy, they're based in all those kinds of things that we work so hard to work around and to work through in our own walk in the world. Because life is very convoluted sometimes, and it's really hard to figure out what is true. What is true? Now, this is what I know about truth and honesty. Depends on who's telling it. Whose truth? What facts? Whose opinions? Whose beliefs? So if I'm talking to my sister who's a creationist, that's her truth. That's her truth. If I'm talking to somebody who believes in evolution, that's their truth. That's my truth. So what is truth? Truth is what we believe, right? It filters through our experience. So really, anytime we're talking about truth and statements of facts and honesty, it depends on who's telling the story. It's relative. What I know, there's only one absolute truth. And those of you who have come through metaphysical spirituality, through religious science and some of the other religious things, will know that sometimes God is referred to as the absolute. The absolute. That thing that never changes, that's always the same, that unqualified something. But there are very few things that are absolute. Most everything is relative. Even a truth that a scientist figures out, like remember when Stephen Hawking said that a black hole just it goes in there and that's it? And then later, guess what? He changed his mind. New evidence, new facts, new truths. So you see, this idea of truth is very, very predicated on who's telling it and what the beliefs are that move it forward. Because most things are situational. I love the author that I was working with this week that says, truth is situational. And guess what? We're part of the situation. We're part of the situation. And we've all got our own set of truths. And for the most part, things are not really black and white, are they? They're pretty gray and shady and variations. Very few things are absolute. God's absolute. I've got that down. But very few things are not subject to new information. The Buddhists say, don't believe anything I say. Don't believe any stories, because guess what? They can change. They can change. So I know that stories, truths, people's facts have multiple layers of truth in them. And Pema Chodron says there is no such thing as a true story. I use this a lot when I'm working with people. There's no such thing as a true story, and at the same time, all stories are true for the people telling them. Because we send them through our filters, unless we are purposely lying. Okay, now that's a whole different matter. I'm talking about our normal way of being in the world. We don't make things up. We just filter them through our experience, through our woundedness, you see. That's my truth, and I'm sticking to it. And this is our opportunity to really expand our spiritual mastery so that we can see a bigger picture than just my story and I'm sticking to it. To challenge ourselves, to see the truth, to see someone else's truth beyond the surface of the story. So I want to ask you something. Can you be absolutely certain about anything that you believe is true? And as a little exercise, I'd like to invite you for the next few seconds to think about a family dynamic and your perception of a family dynamic and someone else's perception of that same family dynamic. And I can tell you the truth. I have two sisters, and we could all three tell the very same incident from our own truth, and none of them would be the same. Do you know how that works? Not one of those stories. There would be some similarities, but depending on our situation, our posture within that story, the story is going to reflect my experience, my memories, my whatever. The fact that I'm the oldest child and that's the middle child and the youngest child. You see what I'm saying? There are really no true stories. They're all just sort of things that have happened that have filtered through our minds, really. So when we're talking about this idea of being honest, the first thing we have to do is be fully honest with ourselves. We've got to accept ourselves in our wholeness. We've got to accept our stories, all of them, and take a look at them. Can I be sure this is really the truth? Is there a different way to look at this? Can I really be certain of this thing, whatever it is? Those of us that are in 12-step, we've got this process that we do where we do brutal honesty. We take a fearless moral inventory of all of our life experiences so that we can be clear about places where we've misstepped and places where we've been a hero in our own journey. You know how that looks? Have you done those things in other ways if you're not a 12-stepper? Where you've taken a critical, investigative look at your life experience, that inventory that says, wow, that wasn't very skillful. Wow, that was awesome. I was a hero in that deal. So then we get to this idea of being honest. And the thing is, we make amends. Guess what? We be honest when it doesn't hurt anybody. When what we have to say isn't going to create more chaos and more harm than the first thing created. Do you know what I'm saying? We are very careful about how we talk about these things. Instead of making up, some sort of an idea that we have to go get it all off our chest, say it like it is, we step back a little bit and go, is this kind? Is this necessary? Is this compassionate? Do I need to be brutally honest in this situation? Because what I know about my own journey is when I get really honest with myself, it's empowering. When I can give myself some forgiveness for things that I've done or things I've thought or ways I've been that are about unskillfulness, when I can be honest about that with myself and say, wow, and make an intention to be aware of that and make a shift, that's empowering. And at the same time, when I look at myself and go, you know what? You did a pretty darn good job on that deal. Be honest with myself. Celebrate who I am. The skillful stuff and the not so skillful stuff. Because what I know about myself is I'm a human being and I'm leaning into this experience of being alive. Just like we all are. And so when I can be gently honest with myself, be self-compassionate, be accepting, not beat myself up. I remember my loveliness, which is about my divinity. And from that comes this sense of well-being, this sense of deep relaxation. And when I know who I am, when I'm really clear about my own divinity, guess what? It's a whole lot easier for me to see you, to see your divinity, to see within you that which I maybe have overlooked in the past. When I know who I am, I know who you are. I picked this little PowerPoint image. I think it's cute. That's my job, to do exactly what the lyrics of Jennifer's song said. To spread my kindness, to spread my religion of kindness. Now here's the caveat. I don't want you to ever think that it is necessary. I'm not suggesting that you go seek out people to be honest with. That you go looking for people to be honest with. People on your list, right? People that have done things that you don't like. I'm not suggesting that you go put yourself in harm's way and seek out these people and get it off your chest. Because you know what? You're going to know when it's safe and when it's appropriate to be able to speak your truth. And sometimes, guess what? It isn't. And you know why it isn't? Because sometimes boundaries are a little bit fuzzy. Sometimes there's some unhealed stuff. And it's not safe to go around speaking your truth to everybody. But you can be kind. And you can be authentic. And the way that you can do that is to cultivate the capacity to speak from heart honesty, not head honesty. So if I see somebody and they've gotten a new haircut, so to speak, on a superficial level, I see a person with a new haircut and it's just really not my favorite type of haircut, I'm not going to go, wow, that's a beautiful haircut. I might say something like, because that wouldn't be authentic, that would not necessarily be true, but I can shift that. And I can say, wow, I love the way your curls look today. Or, wow, I love the color that your stylist made your hair. I can find a way to be honest within an experience without being unkind. I can find a way to be compassionate and come from the heart without being unkind. Our discerning heart always knows how to be kind, that's for sure. And sometimes it's just better to let stuff be. Let it be as it is. Let's, if you've got an issue with somebody, let that thing sort of take a natural, organic progression so that maybe the divine, the universe will put it in your path, that there's a way for you to make amends around that thing that will not be harmful. And sometimes not yet. Sometimes not yet. When it's safe, when it's very safe for you to be honest with somebody, you've got to cultivate the capacity to be honest in a certain way. What does that mean and how does it look? Well, for me, it's not scary honesty. Everybody ever have somebody be really scary honest with you? Where it hurts, where you don't want to hear what they have to say, and you feel a whole lot better if they never said it in the first place? Ever have that happen? Totally honest. That sort of, I got to get this off my chest sort of honest, that just hurts to the bone. Ever been part of that situation? Somebody says, I got to speak to my truth to you. I got to be honest. I got to be honest. Sort of that judgmental honesty. Because when we're being honest in that way, guess what? We're probably expressing an opinion. Yes? We're probably judging the experience and expressing our opinion about whatever that thing is. And when we do that, we have this uncensored potential to harm, to be harmful. If I look at it very clearly and I need to say something, and I'm not saying there aren't times when we got to say something to folks. Actually, I am, but that's a whole other talk. For me, I don't expect you to do this. For me, it's an inside job for me. I don't need to tell people anything. I don't need to be honest with them as long as I'm honest with myself, because at some point I can see something different and I don't need to be brutally honest with people, because it's an inside job for me to be honest with myself. And if I'm at peace with that thing, it doesn't matter if I tell that other person whatever that thing is. Different story. So my idea is I need to come from the heart. Heart honesty is very different than mind honesty. Very different. I can trust when I'm coming from the heart. If I'm heart-centered, I'm going to be kind. And I'm going to be honest from a kind place. Gentle honesty. It's what Eckhart Tolle refers to as a high-quality no that sounds like a yes. It's a setting a boundary, or it's a taking a place, a position, or it's an interaction in a relationship that actually is a no, but it sounds like a yes. It's actually setting an effective boundary, but it isn't, I don't want to go to lunch with you because you drive me crazy. That would be brutally honest. It's, I'm sorry, but I have other plans today for lunch, and then you make other plans and go to lunch. It's coming from a heart that doesn't have to be mean. It sounds like a yes, it sounds like a, oh, well, maybe, but it's not. It's a high-quality no. The Jewish tradition of Musar says, no matter what the situation is, we keep looking until we can find something to praise. So when we see something like I was talking about the hairdo, we keep looking until we can see something within that experience, the divine within that experience that we can praise and not criticize. The language of compassion always serves us well. And sometimes when we're trying to be honest and it gets a little fuzzy for us, guess what? There sometimes is an ethical imperative to not be totally honest. And when we go back to this idea that all stories are, not true, and yet at the same time they are all true, we can't be certain of anything, can we? So sometimes there's an ethical imperative not to be totally honest in that way. So remember, truth is situational, and we're part of every situation that we encounter. Every situation that we encounter. There is no such thing as a true story. There never has been. There never will be. It's always going to be filtered through some sort of experience or situation. New information will come in. The words we speak have a huge impact on other people. Every single one of us can choose the language of compassion. The language of compassion can be extremely honest and kind and truthful. Choose heart honesty over that mind honesty. And if everything else fails, you can always remember what your mother told you, what my mother told me. If you can't be nice, if you can't say something kind, if you can't say something nice, just don't say anything at all. Thank you.